Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Diego with another fun-packed filled video for your K1 visa green card process. This video is going to give you all 128 civics questions and answers for the 2025 U.S. citizenship exam. Okay? So pay attention, class. This is a very important video and it's going to help you if you want to become a U.S. citizen. I'm going to give you every single question that could be possibly asked you by immigration, and I'm going to give you every correct answer. All you have to do is read the question or listen to the question and memorize the answer, and you will pass your civics test for U.S. citizenship. Okay, so I'm going to give you the 128 civics questions, and I'm going to give you all the answers for the 2025 version, okay, effective October 20th, 2025. Now, these questions we cover are going to be very important topics about American government and about American history. The civics test is an oral test given to you by a uscis officer, and he or she will ask you to answer up to 20 out of the 128 questions I'm going to give you. You got to answer 20 correct. You're going to be given 20 of these questions. You got to answer at least 12 correctly to pass. So you're going to learn the 128 questions. You're going to get 20 from this 128, and you got to pass 12. Now, on the civics test, some answers may change a little bit because of elections or appointments, and that's going to be normal. Okay, so you can find the answers to the questions very easily online. But you must answer the question with the name of the official serving at the time of your naturalization interview. Okay? USCIS is aware that there's going to be additional correct answers to the civics questions, and applicants are encouraged to respond to the questions using the answers I'm going to give you, which were created by USCIS. So let's start with American government. Okay? American principles of American government. Let's start with question number 1. What is the form of government of the United States? Well, the form of government of the United States, it's a republic. It's a constitutional-based federal republic. Okay? Don't forget that. You could say it's a representative democracy, but that's not entirely correct. Question number 2. What is the supreme law of the land? The U.S. Constitution. That's how you would answer. Question number 3. Name one thing the U.S. Constitution does. Well, you can answer it forms the government, it defines the power of the government, it protects the rights of the people, which is you and I, okay, including green card holders. Question number 4. The U.S. Constitution starts with the words, "We the people." What does "we the people" mean? This is a question you could get. You respond, it means self-government. It means popular sovereignty or consent of the governed, or people should govern themselves, right? It's an example of a social contract. The government works for us. We don't work for them, right? Question number 5. How are changes made to the U.S. Constitution? Well, you respond with, you can change the Constitution with amendments through the amendment process. Question number 6. What does the Bill of Rights protect? You respond with the basic rights of Americans, the basic rights of people living in the United States. Question number 7. How many amendments does the U.S. Constitution have? Well, you answer 27. That's the correct answer, 27. As of September 19th, 2025. Question number 8. Why is the Declaration of Independence important? This is a question you could get. You respond, well, it says America is free from British control. It says all people are created equal. It identifies the inherent rights. It identifies individual freedoms. Okay? Memorize this stuff. Learn this stuff. It's important for your future as a U.S. citizen. Question number 9. What founding document said the American colonies were free from Britain? Well, that was the Declaration of Independence. If you get a chance, Read that document. Question number 10. Name 2 important ideas from the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Name 2 important ideas. Well, you could respond with equality and liberty. Okay? It's a social contract. You could respond with natural rights, limited government. But you got to give 2 responses. Self-government. Question number 11. The words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are in what founding document? You respond, the Declaration of Independence. That's the correct answer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? You got it. Number 12. What is the economic system of the United States of America? It is a capitalist country. It is a free market economy where businesses grow and expand. Memorize this. We are a capitalist country. Question 13. What is the rule of law? Well, an answer to this would be everybody must follow the law. Leaders must obey the law. Government must obey the law. No one is above the law. Memorize these answers. Question 14. Many documents have influenced the U.S. Constitution. Name one. Well, the answer would be the Declaration of Independence, or the Articles of Confederation, or the Federalist Papers. Read Federalist Paper number 10. Or Anti-Federalist Papers, the Virginia Declaration of Rights, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, the Mayflower Compact, the Iroquois Great Law of Peace. They all influenced it. Question 15. There are 3 branches of the government. Why is that? This is a question from the immigration officer. Why do we have 3 branches of government? Well, you say, so one part does not become too powerful. There are checks and balances. There are the separation of powers. All you got to do is watch this video, memorize the answers I'm giving to you so you understand them, and you will pass your U.S. citizenship test. Well, this part of it anyway. Now let's go into questions on the system of government. This is question number 16. Name the 3 branches of the government. What are the 3 branches of the government? You respond, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Or you can say the Congress, the President, and the courts. Question 17. The President of the United States is in charge of which branch of the government? He's in charge of the executive branch of the government. Okay? Question number 18. What part of the federal government writes the laws? Who writes the laws? The U.S. Congress write the laws. Or you could say the U.S. or national legislature or the legislative branch. That would be the answer to the immigration officer. Question 19. What are the 2 parts of the U.S. Congress? Well, the answer would be the Senate and the House, or the House of Representatives. Okay? Question number 20. Name one power of the U.S. Congress. What power does the U.S. Congress have? Well, the answer would be they write laws. They can declare war. They make the federal budget. Or that would be the answer to the immigration officer. Question 21. How many U.S. senators are there? Well, there are 100. You have 2 per state. I live in Florida. There are 2 senators in Florida. There are 50 states. 2 times 50 is 100. Question 22. How long is a term for a U.S. senator? You would respond 6 years. Question 23. Who is one of your state's U.S. senators right now? The answers will vary depending on where you live. The District of Columbia residents and residents of U.S. territory should answer that D.C. or the territory where you live has no U.S. senators. Washington, D.C. doesn't have a U.S. senator. Question 24. How many voting members are in the House of Representatives? How many voting members? This is a question from immigration officer. The answer is 435. Question number 25. How long is a term for a member of the House of Representatives? How long does your congressman serve for? The answer would be 2 years. And question 26, why do U.S. representatives serve shorter terms than U.S. senators? The answer you would give is to more closely follow public opinion. Congressmen need to be in touch with their constituents, right? Question 27, how many senators does each state have? Each state has 2 senators. Florida has 2 senators. Colorado has 2 senators, etc., etc. Why does each state have 2 senators? Question 28. Answer, equal representation for small states. The Great Compromise. The Connecticut Compromise. Question 29. Name your U.S. representative. The answer is going to vary depending on where you live, okay? And residents of territories with non-voting delegates or resident commissioners may provide the name of the delegate or the commissioner. Also acceptable is any statement that the territory has no voting representative in Congress. Okay, so that would be the answers for that question. Question 30. What is the name of the Speaker of the House of Representatives now? You can figure this out easily. Google it. Speaker of the House of Representatives. Question 31. Who does a U.S. Senator represent? This is a question from immigration. They represent the citizens of their state. They represent the people of their state. I live in Florida. My 2 senators represent me. Question 32. Who elects U.S. senators? Well, the answer would be the citizens from their state. So you got to be a U.S. citizen to vote. Question 33. Who does a member of the House of Representatives represent? Well, the answer would be the citizens in their congressional district. The citizens in their district. People from their congressional district. Those would be good answers. The people, I live in District 1. So that would be the answer. The citizens of District 1, Florida. Question 34. Who elects members of the House of Representatives? Well, the answer would be citizens from their congressional district. Okay? So I would vote and elect the member of Congress for my district. Question 35. Some states have more representatives than other states. Why is that? Well, because of the state's population. California's got a bigger population than, let's say, Vermont. So California's going to have more representatives. Another answer could be because they have more people. And another answer could be because some states have more people. Either one of those answers is correct. Question 36. The President of the United States is elected for how many years? How many years? That's correct. 4 years. Question 37. The President of the United States can serve only 2 terms. Why is that? Well, because of the 22nd Amendment. The 22nd Amendment. And this is to keep the president from becoming too powerful. These are good answers for the question which I just gave you. Question 38. What is the name of the President of the United States? Right now, who is president? Well, September 19th, 2025, the President of the United States is President Donald Trump. Okay? You can do this, guys. These are the answers to the questions, and these are the questions that you could possibly get. They're not going to deviate from this. So if you pay attention, class, you're going to become a U.S. citizen from this video. What is the name of the Vice President of the United States right now, as of September 19th, 2025? That would be Vice President J.D. Vance. Okay? Now that name's going to change probably in 4 years from now, in 8 years from now, but as of now. Question 40. If the president can no longer serve, who becomes the president? The vice president becomes the president if the president can no longer serve. That's question 40. That would be your answer. Question 41. Here's the question. Name one power of the president. The answer you can give is he signs bills into law. He can veto bills, in other words, block a bill. He enforces the laws, like immigration, for example. He's the commander-in-chief of the military. He is the United States chief diplomat, and he appoints federal judges. Any one of those answers is correct. Question 42. Who is the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military? This is the question. Here is the answer. The President of the United States. Right now, that's President Trump. Question 43. Who signs bills to become laws? The answer you give would be the President of the United States. That would be the answer. Question 44. Who vetoes bills? The answer is the President of the United States. You could be asked this question. Who vetoes bills? You respond the President. Question 45. Who appoints federal judges? You know this, right? The President of the United States. Question 46. The executive branch has how many parts? Name one of the parts of the executive branch. Well, you have the President of the United States, you have his cabinet, you have federal departments and agencies like Homeland Security, the ATF, the FBI. Question 47. What does the President's cabinet do? Well, the answer you give would be they advise the President of the United States. They advise the President. Okay? These are the questions. I'm giving you the answers. Question 48. What are the two cabinet level positions? What are two cabinet level positions? You got the Attorney General, you got the Secretary of Agriculture, you got the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of Defense, of Health and Human Services, okay, etc. Homeland Security, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Memorize these answers, ladies and gentlemen, and you will pass this test. There are other secretary departments. You have the Secretary of Labor, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Transportation, etc., the Secretary of the Treasury. You have the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, the Secretary of War, which used to be the Secretary of Defense. Now it's the Secretary of War. You got the Vice President, the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Administrator of the Small Business Administration, the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency. There are so many secretaries. The government apparently is too big, right? I'm just kidding. Question number 49. Why is the Electoral College important? Why is the Electoral College important? It decides who is elected President of the United States. It provides a compromise between the popular election of the President and the congressional selection. Okay? Those are the answers that you would give. You can do this. I'm giving you the questions and I'm giving you the answers. There should be no reason why you do not pass the civics test at your U.S. citizenship interview if you watch this video. Question number 50. What is one part of the judicial branch? You can answer the Supreme Court, federal courts, both are good answers. Question 51. What does the judicial branch do? Well, you say they review laws, they can explain laws, they can resolve disputes, disagreements about the law. Okay? Question number 52. What is the highest court in the United States? What is the highest court? You respond, the Supreme Court. Okay, that's the answer. Now we're going to go on to question number 53. How many seats are on the Supreme Court? How many people sit on the Supreme Court? The answer you give is 9, which is an odd number. That means that at least there's got to be a vote somewhere that approves something with an odd number, right? Question 54. How many Supreme Court justices are usually needed to decide a case? The answer is 5. Question 55. How long do Supreme Court justices serve for? They serve for life. It's a lifetime appointment. That would be your answer. Or until they retire. Okay? Or until they retire. Question number 56. Supreme Court justices serve for life. Why? Why is that? So the answer you give would be so they are independent of politics. to limit outside political influence. Remember, they got to be neutral. They got to go by the law, not by their feelings or their political beliefs. Question 57. Who is the Chief Justice of the United States right now? September 19th, 2025. Okay? Name the Chief Justice of the United States. This would be a question for you if you are at your citizenship test today. 58. Name one power that is only for the federal government. Well, they can print money, they can mint coins, they can declare war, they can create an army, they can make treaties, they can set foreign policy. Okay? That's just name one of those, and you've passed that part. Question 59. Name one power that is only for the states. Well, the states control schooling and education. They provide police protection. The states control fire departments. They control driver's licenses. They approve zoning and land use. These are the laws of the states, not the federal government. Question number 60. What is the purpose of the 10th Amendment? The answer you would give would be, it states that the powers not given to the federal government belong to the states or to the people. That would be the answer. Memorize it. Question number 61. Who is the governor of your state right now? Well, I live in Florida, so the governor of Florida is Governor DeSantis. But that answer is going to vary depending on where you live. If you live in the District of Columbia, you would answer that the District of Columbia doesn't have a governor. Question number 62. What is the capital of your state? I live in Florida. The state capital is Tallahassee. Again, that's going to vary from where you live. And Washington, D.C. is not a state, so it doesn't have a state capital. And the residents of U.S. territories should name the capital of the territory. Like if you live in Guam, which is the Marianas Islands, as an example. Okay? Now let's go on to rights and responsibilities. These are test questions. Question 63. There are 4 amendments to the U.S. Constitution about who can vote. Describe one of them. Well, you got to be a citizen, U.S. citizen, aged 18 or older. You don't have to pay a poll tax to vote. Any U.S. citizen can vote, women, men. A male citizen of any race can vote. Any of those answers will be a pass for that question. Question number 64. Who can vote in federal elections, run for federal office, and serve on a jury in the United States? Well, U.S. citizens, citizens of the United States, U.S. citizens. Okay? Question 65. What are the 3 rights of everyone living in the United States? Name 3 rights. Name 3 of them. Well, you got freedom of expression, you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of assembly, okay? You got freedom to petition the government. These are covered under the First Amendment. Freedom of religion also. And the right to bear arms, which is covered under the Second Amendment. Question 66. What do we show loyalty to when we say the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance, you memorized that, right? Well, you show loyalty to the United States. You show loyalty to our flag. Okay? Question 67. Name 2 promises that the new citizens make in the oath of allegiance when you become a U.S. citizen. Well, you're going to give up loyalty to other countries. You're going to defend the U.S. Constitution. You're going to obey the laws of the United States. Those are good answers for that question. You can serve in the military if needed. You can help people do important work for the nation if needed. You can be loyal to the United States, obviously, right? Question 68. How can people become United States citizens? This is a question you could be asked. Well, you can be born in the United States under the conditions set by the 14th Amendment. You're born here. You can become a naturalized American, is what you're applying to do. You can derive your U.S. citizenship under the conditions set by Congress. And any of those answers will be correct for that question. Okay? Make sure you memorize and study this stuff. Question 69. What are 2 examples of civic participation in the United States? 2 examples This is a question from the immigration officer. Well, you can vote, you can run for office, you can join a political party, you can help with a campaign, you can join a civic group, you can join a community group, you can give an elected official your opinion on an issue, you can contact your elected officials, you can support or oppose an issue or policy. Okay? You can even write to a newspaper with your opinion if you want to. These are some of the good answers that you can give. Question 70, what is one way Americans can serve their country? Number one, you can vote. You pay your taxes. You obey the law. Okay? You can serve in the military. Those are all good answers. You can run for office. You can work for local, state, or federal government. Good answers, right, for that question. Question 71. Why is it important to pay federal taxes? Why do you need to file a joint tax return with your American citizen sponsor? It's required by the law. All people pay to fund the federal government. Everybody's supposed to anyway. It's required by the U.S. Constitution under the 16th Amendment. It's a civic duty. So you could respond, the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution requires this by law. That would be a great answer. Question 72. It is important for all men aged 18 to 25 to register for selective service. Why? Well, number one, it's required by law. Number two, it's a civic duty. It makes the draft fair if needed. Okay? Very important. You got to be able to answer these questions if the immigration officer asks you these questions. Okay? You can do this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I got confidence in you. Now let's go into American history. Okay? The colonial period and independence of the United States. Question 73. The colonists came to America for many reasons. Name one reason. Number one, freedom, political liberty, religious freedom. Any of these answers are good. Economic opportunity, to escape persecution. Any of those answers are good for this question. Question 74. Who lived in America before the Europeans arrived? The answer you give will be American Indians, Native Americans. Either one of those is a good answer. Question 75. What group of people was taken and sold as slaves? This could be a question. The answer you give will be Africans, people from Africa. Okay? Question 76. What war did the Americans fight to win independence from Britain? What war did Americans fight to win independence from Britain? The answer is the American Revolution or the American Revolutionary War. Okay, either one of those is a good answer. The war for America. Well, the war for American independence. You just got to memorize these answers, ladies and gentlemen. Question 77. Name one reason why the Americans declared independence from Britain. Well, you can respond with high taxes, taxation without representation. British soldiers were staying in American houses, boarding, quartering, etc. Not cool, right? And the Americans, they did not have self-government, which they wanted. The Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party or the Tea Act, the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act. These are good answers, ladies and gentlemen. The Townshend Acts, the Intolerable Coercive Acts. Any one of those answers will suffice. Question 78. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? The answer you give is Thomas Jefferson. That's correct. Question 79. When was the Declaration of Independence adopted? It was adopted on July 4th, 1776. That's when we wish people a happy Independence Day. Okay, not a happy July 4th, happy Independence Day. Number 80. The American Revolution had many important events. Name one. You got the Battle of Bunker Hill, the Declaration of Independence, George Washington crossing the Delaware at the Battle of Trenton, You got the Battle of Saratoga, Valley Forge or the Valley Forge encampment, the Battle of Yorktown, where the British surrender at Yorktown. You know, they waving their white flag, I surrender. Question 81. There were 13 original states. Name 5. Memorize 5 at least, or memorize all of them. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, okay, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland even, and Virginia. Don't forget Virginia, and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Memorize these states. 82. Question 82. What founding document was written in 1787? The answer is the U.S. Constitution. Question 83. The Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. Well, that's an easy answer. James Madison. He wrote Federalist Paper number 10. Alexander Hamilton. John Jay. Publius. Question 84. Why were the Federalist Papers important? Well, they helped people understand the U.S. Constitution. It was like a guideline. It was like a how-to. Okay? Very important. Those are the questions. Memorize the answers I just gave you. You will be successful. Question number 85. Benjamin Franklin is famous for many things. Name one. The answer you would give would be he founded the first free public library. Can you believe that? He was the first Postmaster General of the United States. He helped write the Declaration of Independence. Any of those answers will work. Also, he was an inventor. He was a U.S. diplomat. You could say that, okay? You can do this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is the actual question and answer for the U.S. citizenship test. Question 86. George Washington is famous for many things. Name one. Well, you could say he's the father of our country. He was the first president of the States. He was the general of the Continental Army. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention. Any of those answers will be good. Okay? Question number 87. Thomas Jefferson is famous for many things. Name one. Well, he was the writer of the Declaration of Independence. Probably the most important, right? He was the 3rd president of the United States. That's important. And he doubled the size of the United States with the Louisiana Purchase. He bought Louisiana from the French. He was the first Secretary of State. He founded the University of Virginia. He was the writer of the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom. Any one of those answers will be a good answer. Question 88. James Madison is famous for many things. Name one. Well, you could say he was the father of the Constitution. He was the 4th president of the United States. He was president during the War of 1812. He was one of the writers of the Federalist Papers. Read Federalist Paper number 10, where it says we are a republic, not a democracy. Question number 89. Alexander Hamilton is famous for many things. Name one. Well, he was the first Secretary of the Treasury. He was one of the writers of the Federalist Papers. He has helped establish the first bank of the United States. He was also an aide to General George Washington. He was a member of the Continental Congress. Now let's go on and talk about questions you could get from the 1800s in American history. Question number 90. What territory did the United States buy from France in 1803? And that's the Louisiana Territory, right? Louisiana. That would be your answer, one of those. Question 91. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s. You got the War of 1812. You got the Mexican-American War. you got the Civil War, you have the Spanish-American War. Any one of those answers will suffice. Question 92, name the U.S. war between the North and the South. That was called the Civil War, right? The North v. the South, the Civil War. That would be the answer for that question. Question number 93. The Civil War had many important events. Name one. Well, there's the Battle of Fort Sumter. There's the Emancipation Proclamation. There's the Battle of Vicksburg. There's the Battle of Gettysburg. There's Sherman's March. Study this stuff. There's the surrender at Appomattox, the Battle of Antietam, the Battle of Sharpsburg. President Lincoln was assassinated. Any of those will be good answers. Question 94. Abraham Lincoln is famous for many things. Name one. Well, he freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. He saved or preserved the Union. He led the states during the Civil War. He was the 16th President of the United States. He delivered the Gettysburg Address. Any of those answers will be good. Question 95. What did the Emancipation Proclamation do? You would answer, it freed the slaves. It freed the slaves in the Confederacy. It freed the slaves in the Confederate States. It freed the slaves in most southern states. So those are the answers you could give, and you would get a passing score. Question 96. What U.S. war ended slavery? What U.S. war ended slavery? The answer you would give would be the Civil War. Question 97. What amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are U.S. citizens? What amendment? The 14th Amendment. Okay, the 14th Amendment. Question 98. When did all men get the right to vote? After the Civil War would be the correct answer, or during Reconstruction, which is with the 15th Amendment of 1870. Okay, that's when all men got the right to vote. Question 99. Name one leader of the women's rights movement in the 1800s. One leader of the women's rights movement. You could respond with Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. You could mention Lucretia Mott or Lucy Stone. Any of those ladies are a correct answer. Okay? Memorize this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Learn about this history of our country. Now, let's talk about recent American history and other important historical information. Okay, these are questions for your U.S. Citizenship Civics test. Question number 100. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1900s. You could respond with World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War. All correct answers for that question. Question 101. Why did the United States enter World War I? You respond with, because Germany attacked U.S. ships. You know, the German U-boats were sinking American transport ships. Or you could say to support the Allied powers, England, France, Italy, and Russia. Or you could say to oppose the Central Powers, which would be Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, including Bulgaria. Good answers, right? Question number 102. When did all women get the right to vote? The answer you would give will be 1920. Or you could say after World War I. Or you could say with the 19th Amendment. Good answers. Question 103. What was the Great Depression? Well, the answer you would give would be, it was the longest economic recession in modern history. Question 104. When did the Great Depression start? You would respond with the Great Crash of 1929, the stock market crash of 1929. Either one of those are good answers. Question 105. Who was president during the Great Depression and World War II? You would answer President Franklin Roosevelt. That is the correct answer. Question 106. Why did the United States enter World War II? You respond with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Or you could say to support the Allied powers, which would be England, France, and Russia. To oppose the Axis powers, which is Germany, Italy, and Japan. Question 107. Dwight Eisenhower is famous for many things. Name one thing. Well, you could respond with he was general during World War II. He was the president at the end or during the Korean War. He was the 34th president of the United States. He signed the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, which created the interstate system. All of our interstates, okay, I-10, I-95, I-40, etc. Question 108. Who was the United States' main rival during the Cold War? You would respond with the Soviet Union, the USSR, Russia. Either one of those would be the correct answer for that question. Question 109. During the Cold War, what was the main concern, or what was one main concern of the United States? One main concern. The answer you would give is communism, nuclear war. We don't want that stuff happening, right? We don't want communism in our country. Question 110. Why did the United States enter the Korean War? You would respond with to stop the spread of communism. Right? Question 111. Why did the United States enter the Vietnam War? You would respond with to stop the spread of communism. Right? Communism is not good. It's bad. Question 112. What did the civil rights movement do? Well, you would respond with it fought to end racial discrimination. That's the answer you would give. Fought to end racial discrimination. Question 113. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is famous for many things. Name one thing. Well, you could say that he fought for civil rights. He worked for equality for all Americans. Either one of those answers. He worked to ensure that people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That's a very good answer to that question, right? Just memorize this stuff. Question 114. Why did the United States enter the Persian Gulf War? The answer you would give would be to force the Iraqi military from Kuwait. Remember, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. Question 115. What major event happened on September 11th, 2001 in the United States? You would respond with a terrorist attack on the United States. Terrorists took over 2 planes, actually it was more than that, and crashed them into the World Trade Center in New York City, plus in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Terrorists took over a plane and crashed it into the Pentagon, which is in Arlington, Virginia. They took over a plane aimed originally at Washington, D.C., but it crashed in a field where? In Pennsylvania. Any of those would be good answers to that question. Question 116. Name one U.S. military conflict after the September 11th, 2001 attacks. You would answer with the global war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq. Any of those are good answers to that question. Okay? Just memorize this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. You can do this. Question 117. Name one American Indian tribe in the United States. Well, let's name the American Indian tribes. Memorize one. You got the Apache. You got the Blackfeet. You've got the Cayuga. You definitely have the Cherokee. You've got the Cheyenne, the Chippewa, the Choctaw Indians. You've got the Creek Indians. You've got the Crow Indians. Let's see now. You've got the Hopi. Okay. You've got the Huron. You have the Inupiat, the Lakotas. Memorize these. You've got the Mohawk, the Mohegans. There's a lot of tribes, ladies and gentlemen. You got the Navajo, you got the Oneida, the Onondaga, you've got the Pueblos, the Seminole, which is famous in Florida where I live. You've got the Seneca Indian tribes. You've got the Shawnee. Let me see. You got the Sioux, the Teton, the Grand Teton Mountains, for example. You got the Tuscarora. That's just a few of the Indian tribes. Question 118. Name one example of American innovation. Well, Americans invented the light bulb. They invented automobiles, the internal combustion engine. They invented skyscrapers, the airplane, the Wright brothers, remember? The assembly line, Ford Motor Company. We landed on the moon in 1969. We invented the integrated circuit, etc. Now let's go over symbols and holidays. Symbols. Question 119. What is the capital of the United States? You respond with Washington, D.C. That's the answer. Question 120. Where is the Statue of Liberty? You would answer with, it's in New York Harbor. Or you could say Liberty Island, which is an acceptable answer, near New York. On the Hudson River is another acceptable answer. Question 121. Why does the flag have 13 stripes? The answer would be because there were 13 original colonies, and the stripes represent the original colonies. That is the best answer you could give. Okay? Question 122. Why does the flag have 50 stars? You would answer, because there is one star for each state. And each state, right? Actually, each star represents a state, or you could say, because there are 50 states. Hawaii is the 50th state. That's where you come up with Hawaii 5-0. Alaska's the 49th state. There are 50 states, 50 stars. 123, question 123. What is the name of the national anthem? You respond with the Star-Spangled Banner. Question 124. The nation's first motto was E pluribus unum. What does that mean? It means out of many one. We all become one. Either one of those is a good answer to that question. Okay? You've got this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You can do this. I have confidence in you. If you watch this video, you will have all the questions and you will have all the answers to the civics test for U.S. citizenship. Now let's go over holidays. Question 125. What is Independence Day? It's a holiday to celebrate U.S. independence from Britain. It's the country's birthday. Question 126. Name 3 national U.S. holidays. You got New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, which is Washington's birthday. You got Memorial Day. You have Independence Day. You have Labor Day. You got Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day to celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And question 127, what is Memorial Day? Well, you would respond with, it's a holiday to honor soldiers who died in military service. And finally, question 128, what is Veterans Day? That's a holiday to honor people in the U.S. military and a holiday to honor people who have served in the U.S. military. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, 128 questions. These are the 128 questions that immigration is going to pull from, and they're going to ask you 20 of these 128 questions, and you got to get 12 right. Watch this video, memorize the questions, memorize the answers, learn the answers, so then when you go for your civics test to become a U.S. citizen, you will pass with flying colors. Don't forget, you got to be able to speak English and take questions, and you got to be able to read and write in English also. You can do this. Don't forget, I do a live stream with my beautiful wife, Karina from Venezuela, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 6 p.m. Central Time, though sometimes I might take a day off. And if you want to become a member of this channel, you can get my email address and phone number. But don't forget, I don't give you legal advice, I don't work for immigration, and I don't work for uscis. See you at the live stream. And become an American citizen. Get studying.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. See you later. Bye.